Hello everybody, yes, my name is Angel from Doctrine here once again to give you another random thought video. And it is currently 10:21 p.m. It is over 80 degrees, the air conditioner's on, and the crickets and bugs are chirping outside. So please bear with me, this is not exactly the best quality, but yeah, it's too freaking hot, so I'm sorry. So, in the spirit of E3, I've decided to make another video in response to another thing that happened during the Microsoft's press conference, and that is that they announced backwards compatibility for the Xbox One. Now, at first, when I heard this, I thought it was actually full backwards compatibility. All games that you have on Xbox 360 on discs, maybe even Xbox Live, can be played on your Xbox One. Well, no, that's not the case. Later, I found out that it's just like the Xbox 360, where Microsoft has to validate which games can be played on the Xbox 360. And in the end, not every game that was available on the first Xbox can be played on the Xbox 360, so they're basically doing the same thing. Not every game that has been available on the Xbox 360 will be playable on the Xbox One. I'm sorry, that's the truth. I don't understand this because Sony did it before with the PS2 and the first generation PlayStation 3, that it had full backwards compatibility. It doesn't matter who made the game, when the game was made, it works. It just worked. Nintendo did the same thing with the Wii because the Wii played the GameCube games. Every GameCube game that came out, it could be played on the Wii. The Wii U can be played, it has backwards compatibility with the Wii. So, but still no issues of having to ask each and individual developer or publisher for permission to be able to play the game on their platform. So I just don't really understand this. But the point is, Sony's response to this is very odd. And the reason why I say that is because I tweeted to Sony as soon as I found out what Microsoft was doing, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I basically called out Shuhei Yoshida and Adam Boyes. It's like, well, it's time to do the impossible. In other words, bring backwards compatibility to the PlayStation 4, real backwards compatibility, not this PlayStation Now thing that, for the most part, it's not a feasible substitute in any way. So Shuhei went on record with Polygon and said this about backwards compatibility. Backward compatibility is hard. I won't say we'll never do it, but it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. Okay. Something else written here about PlayStation Now. PlayStation Now works surprisingly well, but the primary purpose of the project was to create a new network service that could be used to bring PlayStation games to multiple devices, including non-PlayStation devices like Sony and Samsung televisions. Okay, that makes sense. But the thing is, both can exist. You can have both. You can have real native backwards compatibility to be able to play PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSN games from last gen on the PlayStation 4, and you can still have PlayStation Now because, just like I said right there in that statement, PlayStation Now is more designed to offer PlayStation content in other devices that is not PlayStation. Not too long ago, Samsung smart TVs are now being programmed with the PlayStation Now service, which is great. You know, it creates exposure to people that don't know anything about PlayStation, so that's great. But the thing is, I'm not an engineer by any way, but I just don't understand how hard could it possibly be to add software emulation to the PlayStation 4 to at least allow us to play last gen games. It'd be great if we could play PS1 and PS2 games on top of that, because this is a market that Sony has kind of not realized that it exists. To give you an example, I have a couple of friends who skipped on buying the PlayStation 3. One of them in particular said that if the PlayStation 3 had backwards compatibility to the PlayStation 4, if the PS4 had backwards compatibility to PlayStation 3 games, he would buy it because he didn't have a PlayStation 3. But there were a lot of exclusives that he wanted to play. And also, he would like to replay a lot of PS1 and PS2 games. So there you have a potential sell. But not having backwards compatibility on it, well, you lost that sale. And also, haven't Sony realized that retro gaming is becoming a big thing now? There are a lot of stores around the country that offers specifically retro games from who knows how far back. And obviously there's an interest for it. Conventions all over the country, constantly, there are booths dedicated to sell and trade retro games. And you see it all over the internet. You see a lot of YouTubers always showing their pickups that show them buying mostly retro games or games from their childhood that they used to have, but they had to sell or whatever, but now they're getting it again. There's a market for this, a pretty big market that Sony has the opportunity to tamper with, but they refuse to do it for whatever reason. Is it because they really want to push forward PlayStation Now because that gives them extra cash? Or is it true that it's just not that easy to do on the PlayStation 4 and they just don't want to waste their time and resources to make it? For whatever the reason it is, this to me is something that should have been done from the very beginning. I want to build up my PlayStation library again because I had to sell a lot of my games over the years, but I would love to rebuy them again, but I don't want to have multiple consoles. Right now, I have a PS3 and a PS4, and there are a couple of games that I own right now in my library on the PS3 that I haven't finished, and I just can't see myself forcing myself to play them on the PS3 once I'm already accustomed to using the PlayStation 4. I'm a little bit disappointed at Sony and Shuhei Yoshida for saying this, but hopefully they'll see the light and they will do it. I know plenty of people that will love to have the luxury to play older games, and this is also a big selling point for Sony, once again emphasizing the fact that there's a lot of people who bought a PS4 that didn't S3. Okay, they don't want a PS3, they prefer to get the PS4 to get the better controller, to get the better experience, okay, and be able to use all the functions that the PS4 offers. Twitch streaming and the party chat system, which is not on the PlayStation 3, and just the overall ease of use of the system because it has multi-functionality. You know, you can't do that on the PS3. The PS3, you virtually can't do nothing while playing a game. Okay, at least on the PS4, while playing a game, you can still launch an application. You can go into the web browser, you can fiddle with the settings, you can listen to music, you can start a party chat, you can do virtually almost anything without the game actually having to be turned off. And that is a luxury that people have gotten used to it, so it's really hard to turn back. First world problems, definitely, but it's one that shouldn't exist to begin with. So anyways, I'm gonna end it right there because if I keep on going, I'm gonna be reaching I'll be here all night talking about backwards compatibility. Sony, seriously, get your act together and work on giving us backwards compatibility, at least for the PlayStation 3 games and the freaking PSN games, okay? At least give us that. Well, thanks guys for listening. Yes, I am Angel from Game Doctrine, and I'll talk to you later.